My brother, good morning to you. Good to see you again.
Present morning. Let me disabuse your mind of that. First, I was one of the first political reporters.
Oh, but it sounded so good
first.
When I said it. All right.
I was at the Express. In fact, I was the second political reporter.
But it sounded good, you must say.
Yes, it certainly did. Yeah, it made me blush blue.
Yeah, like, what is he saying? He's talking about accuracy on one hand, and what is that? Errol, good to have you here, my friend. All right. One of the first political reporters so designated in Trinidad and Tobago. But the years of consistency makes clear that the company you came out of has the respect for the craft, which assists us all. The column you have this week deals with a catch-22. It's called a police catch-22. Who can we trust is the question. Caught my attention. You catch my attention every week, but you caught my attention particularly with this one because the public perception is that the police service is corrupt. Everybody says we cannot trust the police. But public trust is a major weapon in the battle against crime, is the major weapon in the battle against corrupt cops. So on the one hand, you don't trust them, but you need to trust them. We need to weed out the bad ones. Here is the problem. Catch-22. We will explore that this morning. Let me ask you, first of all, en route to bridging that conflict of trusting but knowing that you need, where do we begin the building process with the police in your mind? I ask you this as a journalist who has heard many versions of frustrations, many stories, one who has spent a lot of time dealing into the detail of these allegations.
Well, I think one of the major problems facing the police is management. And unless you can get the management that you need, who could take firm decisions, who could do a good job about the present management know who the rogues are. The members of that management, they know who the rogues are.
Now, let me be clear. You really believe that the current management is aware of where the crooks are?
I think so.
Really?
I think because you see, we live in a small community called Trinidad and Tobago. And some of the citizens in the country could point to crooks in the police service because they have come across that kind of thing. And I am saying, if the management is not aware of who these people are, then they should not be in the management. Because unless you know who they are, unless you know what they're doing, you would not be able to do anything positive with a view to correcting the situation. I referred in that article to a statement made by the acting commissioner of police, an interview he had with the media, where he said there were 150 police officers who were accused of one thing or the other,
including murder,
in the situation with Enterprise, that so-called hotspot, you had people accusing the police of running drug blocks, of being involved in gangs, and that sort of thing. And unless we can get a handle on that, then it's like spinning topping mud, as my grandmother used to say, because the public is not going to trust the police, and therefore the key factor in dealing with crime, which is public trust, it is going to remain the same.
If, in fact, the corruption is like a cancer, it's already malignant, then the issue is you have to do a weeding out that will cause a lot of problems. Could that be one of the reasons it is so difficult to deal with it, is because it is so deep in the marrow that you have to go chipping step by step, because if you went to get rid of the cancer, the whole thing can crumble, the whole body can crumble. Is that one of the considerations you think why there is a piecemeal approach to dealing with it? Or is it because everybody's got an opinion about who is corrupt, but not enough information to prove it?
Rennie, the body is already crumbling. And I'm saying that in order to, this should have been attacked a long time ago, but every effort to attack the situation, first in the era of Patrick Manning, when he brought in Scotland Yard, they were frustrated. Iwatsky and Gibbs, who came from Edmonton, they were frustrated and they were asked to resign and so on. And there is always that pushback from the rank and file of the police to keep the status quo as it is.
Errol Pilgrim is the voice. Errol Pilgrim is the voice you're hearing, and we're talking about the integrity of the police service and dealing with the problem here. All right, let me stay with that point you made about Gibbs, and I go to Ramesh Diosaran, who again last week reiterated something that he has said before. It's time to ask for help from the FBI or Scotland Yard. Are you asking for them to come here, be part of the police service, and try to deal with the problem, or are you bringing the equivalent of an independent prosecutor or an independent body to look at the police service, identify it, and hand the report in, and let the axe fall where it may? Because there is a problem. If you become part of the organization, you may not be able to independently, see everything.
Well, I think that we are living in the era of globalization, and it is a fact of life that one country cannot do it alone. We have to depend on expertise in almost every sphere of existence, and the police is no exception. I like the idea. In fact, there's a journalist colleague of mine who lives in Baltimore, Edison Holder, who has been, he has been behind the possibility for getting one of the senior retired FBI persons, preferably black, and he says there are quite a few of them, to come down here and help in restructuring the management of the police service. Somebody who would look like one of us. I mean, if the problem is said to be recolonizing the colonized by bringing back the white man, okay. Well, if that is still the argument, let's bring somebody who is black and knowledgeable and so on to deal with it. And we have the opportunity here because we need a substantive commissioner of police. I mean, you cannot keep recycling one man, over and over 6 months. This in itself is is creating a lack of incentive for others to move up.
Yes, the acting in itself, the acting position in itself makes a statement that you're not good enough to be on top.
Yes,
and that sends a weird message down the ranks. But let me just deal with something you said again a bit earlier when we were talking about the awareness of the administrators. You were saying then that we need a clean off of the head. I mean, not just the acting police commissioner, but the hierarchy. You need to remove them in order to bring about this change because, as you said, if they know about it and they're condoning it, well, of course, that's one matter for the AG. If they don't know about it and they're functioning as the head of the department, that's a statement of incompetence.
Exactly. Then they're inefficient.
So you're calling for in your view...
Well, something has to be done to clean the thing up from the top.
Well,
whether it is removing the top, whether it is reconditioning the top, whatever it is, it has to be done.
I believe in justice, and I have the patience for it to take a long time because that point I made about the cancer being already so deep inside. I sometimes think that if you try to pull it all out at the same time, you're gonna have chaos on your hands because if according to what people say, it is so ingrained in the service, then you cannot just put it all at the same time. It does, however, send my mind back to what the Prime Minister said, that every Trinidadian, every Trinbagonian must examine their role in this. Police officers don't come from a foreign country. They come from here. If I take a look at what you identified as what you correctly identified, and I read the entire report of the U.S. State Department 2016 report, they used a broad brush in dealing with Trinidad and Tobago. And if you'll forgive me, Errol, or maybe you can read your excerpt from it, was quite accurate when it spoke of corruption in the police and immigration services. Let us hear what they had to say about that.
First of all, I have to find it.
All right. That's where they said corruption in the police and immigration services continue to be a problem, with senior officials acknowledging that officers participated in corruption and illegal activities. There were allegations that some police officers had close relationships with gang leaders, and that the police, customs, and immigration officers often accepted bribes to facilitate drugs, weapons, and human smuggling, also trafficking. Now, this is the United States State Department 2016 report, and that is in Errol's column. You guys can go up and look at it and pull up the original report and take a look at it. What it says that we are all, in one form or the other, either directly involved with this or complicit in the carrying on of this. So it goes back to what the Prime Minister said. Let us look at all of us, because these people in all these disciplines are not coming from another country. They are part of us. And how prepared are we as a nation to start looking at it from that standpoint?
Well, this is the problem. We have to get prepared. We have to, if we are as concerned as we are about this question of runaway crime, we have to take serious, drastic steps to get the thing under control. I mean, we cannot say, listen, we are not going to risk breaking up the body or causing a chaotic situation because you have to remove certain people from their jobs. We have to do things, and I mean, they say drastic times need drastic measures, and we are facing some drastic times here. We cannot go along like this, Rennie. We cannot, definitely. And the thing is that the criminals are of the perception that they have the upper hand.
Yes.
And this, I mean, when you're looking at a situation like that, you're talking anarchy.
Yes.
You cannot have the criminals controlling what the law-abiding people do with their lives and what the people who are supposed to uphold the law do in terms of dealing with these criminals.
Well, they're operating with impunity without question.
Definitely.
And that is a frightening situation. Errol Pilgrim is my guest, just reminding listeners at 11 o'clock, the President General of the OWTU, Comrade Ansel Roger, will be joining us. We will be talking about the state of union business in Trinidad and Tobago, labor in Trinidad and Tobago. His utterance, take your rig and go, at least so reported. We will be talking about all of that, and Errol has acquiesced to hang around with us while we have that conversation. Even after the President General is with us, Errol and I will continue our conversation this morning, because that too is part of what we're talking about. We are talking about corruption in the police service right now. Specifically, it is nationwide, as we just alluded to, but specifically in the police. Let us talk about that part of it, Errol, because many believe that they are good officers. The Attorney General, in his utterance last week, said the majority, and I concur with it, the majority of them, of police officers, are there with good heart, good intention, and conscientiously carrying out their responsibility. You do have, however, that minority that's making a mess of everything. So it raises the question, whistleblowers. Maybe we need some whistleblowers, but let us be clear about this. One of the things we found that when you talk about police and whistleblowers, you will get introduced to that category called friendly fire. America is very familiar with it, where police go out on a raid, and the next thing you know, an officer got accidentally fired on. So we understand the danger of police officers wanting to do that. So it does raise the question, is it about time we started looking at foreign relocation, for instance, being offered to whistleblowers in the police service, so that they feel they and their family can be not put in a witness protection program in Trinidad, they'll find you, but they can feel comfortable that they can come out and really give some good information, and if the information leads to arrest and conviction, that they can be relocated somewhere else. Should we start raising the ante to get whistleblowers to cooperate?
Well, one of the plans that were announced by Prime Minister Rowley during his campaign in the last general elections was the plan to establish whistleblower legislation, and that has to come into play. I am not sure how far the Attorney General's Department has got to getting that on the books, whistleblower legislation. And all of that would have to be taken into consideration when you have such legislation being enacted, because one of the things, one of the problems we have with the legislation is, while it may be good law, the question of implementation. And to make the legislation work, consideration must be given to the suggestion you're making, that the whistleblowers must be encouraged by your ensuring their safety. And they must know that their safety is assured. I mean, the whole witness protection program is laughable in Trinidad and Tobago.
It is one of the reasons, yes. At the Demarche Gras, I don't know if you saw the Calypsonian that spoke on witness protection. She said, I saw a murder, and she went on to detail that her life has been totally locked down. She's in a position that she cannot live, so in order to cooperate with the police, she had to sacrifice her life. Is the essence of the Calypso, which makes another point in this area. A whistleblower must feel that they can have a life after they decide that they want to cooperate.
And again, comes back to the whole question of public trust. If you do not trust the police, and if you do not trust in the hierarchy of the police to respond to your whistleblowing without any harm coming back to yourself, then what's the point?
I know exactly.
Nobody will come forward.
The article is Catch 22, Police Catch 22. The author is a columnist who is my guest, Errol Pilgrim. That's what we're talking about this morning. In about 4 minutes' time, we'll be joining up with Ansel Roger, who is the President General of the OWTU, to talk about that. But let us continue in the area we are, which is a very important area of public trust. On the front page of the newspaper this day is the statement that of the 9 police divisions in Trinidad and Tobago, Northern Division has topped the list 3 years running for complaints against officers lodged with the PCA. My feeling is that the PCA is doing yeoman service, first of all, not to discredit the work of the Professional Standards Bureau, the PSB, but I think it bothers me that folks are objecting to the PCA because they are independent body working from outside. And I know that the Police Social and Welfare Association and its president, Michael Seal, is not too liking the PCA. What is your feeling on the role of the PCA in this? And as I said, I am not minimizing the work of the PSB, but the PSB is part of the TTPS. Sound like the Americans with all these acronyms. All right. So if the Professional Standards Bureau is part of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, then I see the need for the Police Complaints Authority, because they are looking at the situation from outside. I think that is a plus.
Definitely. I believe that, and I have very great respect for the man who is in charge of the Police Complaints Authority, Mr. David West. I think he's a person of integrity. And you see, people of integrity, Rennie, in this country, well, they are an endangered species. People of integrity, yes, particularly in the public arena. Because it is so encouraging to take a shortcut to everything, and to say, well, the other person is doing it, so who am I? That sort of thing. But I think that David West has his heart in the right place, and once he has the cooperation, the people, the major players, I can see that having some impact on what is necessary. But you must have the PCA, because, as you said, that is where the link with the public and all the complaints that have been, and we have had quite a bit of complaints about the police and brutality and that sort of thing.
You are looking, just to be clear, as we wrap this segment up here, Errol Pilgrim, a veteran journalist who is my guest here, just to reiterate, your position is the acting we know is ridiculous. Acting for so many times, I think this is the 7th extension of the acting role. And that is untenable. That does not foster confidence. That does not help even those down the line to respect the lead of the acting commissioner, because they know he may be gone at any point. And, as long as you have that, it's almost as though you have the man working with the hatchet over his neck. I mean, that makes no sense in the world. Do you have a problem with a foreigner being appointed as the Commissioner of Police of Trinidad and Tobago? Many feel that is a slap to the officers who are serving here. Do you have a problem with that?
I prefer for the officers to endure that slap, and let's have a foreigner if he can do the job. Because you see, the argument here is that there are so many of the officers who may themselves be compromised.
But it does work against the reality that many of those in the service are, in fact, conscientious, hardworking, and
definitely,
honest people.
I have no doubt about that.
So don't you think that there are people in the police service right now who can, in fact, fill that role?
But you see, if they are conscientious and they have integrity and so on, what are they doing about helping to remove the ills in the police service? Do we hear from them? Are they doing anything at all, or are they waiting for the head to be cut off so they can fill the breach?
Fighting City Hall is always a very difficult time. Oh, I see what you mean. People may be waiting in their position for when it's their turn. Errol Pilgrim is my guest. We're going to move away from Errol just for a moment. He will be staying with us right through until 12 o'clock. He has acquiesced to do that. We do have to get to the matter of take your rig and leave me alone. We're going to do that in 1 second.